Beamer Road, two-lot subdivision. This is a continuation of a public hearing we opened at our last meeting. Here for the applicant, representing the applicant is Ross Winglevitz from Engineering Properties. How are you, Ross?
Good evening, Fred. How are you?
Good. If you could please update us on everything, and I'll call in so we can take comment.
Yeah, we were here 2 weeks ago for a public hearing. Jay Samuelson from my office was here representing Ronald and Lois McDonald. This is a two-lot subdivision. There is a approximately 7-acre piece of property that they own currently. This is their existing residence. They are selling that residence to their daughter and moving to a smaller home on the new lot that they're creating. We've been through a number of reviews with the board. I think we've satisfied all the comments. There's a couple issues that remain. One is site distance concerns and the amount of clearing and how do we maintain that clearing over time to ensure safety. I did meet with my client after the workshop, actually before the workshop. They had this idea, and I see it was discussed at the workshop. Is a potential we could move this driveway to the east so that it would limit any clearing that would be necessary to achieve about 260 feet of site distance or so. ASHTO requirements for a 30-mile-an-hour road are 200 feet, so we'd still be in excess of ASHTO requirements. And it's similar to other actually public roads that the town has approved for new cul-de-sacs that we've represented in the past. So we think that that's consistent with your policy, consistent with ASHTO, would remove the clearing of vegetation or limit it severely. The town actually has a pretty wide shoulder there that they maintain pretty well. It's actually about 12 to 15 feet back from the edge of pavement, with the exception of 1 or 2 trees right up as you get towards where the proposed driveway is. So rather than having an easement and more clearing in the wetlands, we would limit that work. Even as proposed, I think that Andrew had noticed, he's a pretty good surveyor. There's about 3,000 square feet, a little over 3,000 square feet of clearing that would be required, that would be partially in the wetlands. So if we actually slid that further east, we would avoid that, get a little bit away from the corner. The important part is that the McDonald's don't want to get this into the lawn area, which is in front of their house. So they want to move as far as they can, but maintain that tree line that exists. The area here is the old mine. This was an old gravel pit that the town used at one point. So they want to kind of keep that intact because it really represents kind of the usable portion of their existing house and what they actually use today. So any kind of encumbrances into that would actually kind of affect that significantly. So that's why that was their whole goal, to keep this in the woods, out of the way. It's going to be a small home, maintain the lawn area, the open space around the existing house. So that was our one thought on site distance. I know the highway superintendent, I had reached out to him. He reconfirmed what he had said here at work session. He was okay with this as long as we did the clearing. I think if we move it further, I think it will benefit everybody as long as we can keep it in the woods so it doesn't just pop out in the middle of the lawn in front of the house. I think it will have 2 benefits if we do that. The other issue that I know was discussed at the workshop and was discussed at the public hearing, the initial public hearing 2 weeks ago, there was a couple of comments. One from the property to the west regarding visibility. That property has over 300 foot of trees between our clearing and their clearing, so there's a significant buffer there. Kresge talked about site distance in their comments. Actually, they didn't talk about visibility in their comments that I saw. There is about 35 feet of trees that are on the property line between the Kresge's driveway and the property line that exists today, so they have a significant buffer there. And we're committed to preserving at least 20 feet on our property, so that would give us over 50 foot of wooded area as a buffer. I think that's a summary of what I had. I'd be glad to discuss any comments the board had or observations since you last had.
As this is a public hearing, I do have someone on the line. I'll ask him for his comments. Hello? 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 Okay. It seems like someone's on. This is Fred Reichel. Ronald, how are you?
How are you? I was just standing by. I didn't know how this worked to see if there were, any issues that I had to address at this point. So
Okay.
I didn't know if you had to dial in earlier.
No.
Just being like on hold.
No, you dial in as there's comments to have. So whoever has a comment, they would call in and they would express their concerns. Is there anyone in the?
I'll hang up for the time being.
Okay.
And just let you guys do your thing, and then, if I have a comment, I'll call back then.
Okay, thanks, Ronald. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I didn't know how it worked.
No, that's, okay, that's understood. We're all learning. Okay, thanks. Is there anyone that has a comment? Anybody in the public that would like to call in?
Is there a 20-second lag?
We'll give the public a few minutes if anybody has a comment. Board, any comments while we're waiting?
There were two letters received 2 weeks ago, right?
Correct.
One from trustee and one from Mrs. Reichel.
Yeah, funny. Yeah. Bernadette, sorry.
Ross, they were,
Yeah, Bernadette's comments were regarding the visibility, and that's why I addressed earlier, there's over 300 feet of trees between the clearing for their house and the proposed clearing here. Preshke's discussed concerns about site distance. We are willing to move this slightly east to reduce the amount of clearing required for that driveway, but maintain safe site distance at the same time.
how far east?
We're looking about 25 to 30 feet, kind of almost across from the telephone pole. Which would keep it still in the woods, so it wouldn't pop out in the front lawn. It gets us further away from the corner.
Okay, thank you.
We still need to do Mr. Chairman, we still need to do a waiver for variance.
Terry, correct? Yep, for any approval. Rose, did you say you had gone out and seen and looked at the new driveway location, or you hadn't? You haven't. So none of us have been out to look at that? Now, if you're moving the driveway to the east, Ross,
Yep.
towards Walden on Beamer Road,
Correct.
are you going to modify the boundary line also?
Yes. Yep.
You're just going to straighten that line out?
Yep, a little bit.
Okay. Yes, Rich.
Ross, would the shaded area then be reduced
Yes.
by
Absolutely.
a factor of?
Significantly, actually, the line barely cuts into the private property. It almost stays entirely within the right of way.
Did you find if Beamer's a road by deed or a road by use, or you just know your client's line ends where you show it?
Yeah, I just know that our client's line ends where I show it. I went back and looked at the file map that was part of the original subdivision for this, and it's consistent with the boundary that's shown here. So the subdivision, I guess, was one back in the early 2000s that this board approved. It's consistent with that.
The issue that was raised previously was requiring the private sector to work within the town-owned area. Is that still going to be the case, or do you think it will be reduced?
I mean, any time we do a lot of driveways, there's always clearing and maintenance that people have to do within the right of way. And here, it actually drops off from the road, and that first 12 to 15 feet is actually pretty well maintained. The town at some point wants to cut it pretty far back. really until you get up to where his driveway is, and there's a couple trees that come out towards the edge of the road.
Because the board was considering a formal covenant in the chain of title, but perhaps we can look at, if it's now de minimis, maybe that would miss. I mean, that was the issue.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bad turn, and I think we were all concerned about that. Yes, Andrew?
When we left last Wednesday, we met the highway super as he was coming in the building. And I just spoke about this briefly, and I knew he was okay with it. I said, how about if we added a hidden driveway sign on the road,
Okay.
like inside of the curb approaching? And he said, yeah, I had no problem with that. So maybe that would be a great idea, just kind of alert somebody that's coming up, you know? So the highway super was okay with that. And then I sent Ross's latest sketch, moving the driveway to the east, like he's describing. I sent it to Pete Priscilla just to take a look at it. Pete's only thought was if we could just take that driveway and that last 20 feet, if we could skew it,
Make sure it's squared up.
move it closer to the property line that he just drew,
Yeah.
that square up, that extension, and then come in perpendicular to Beaver, just so somebody's coming straight out, rather than like an on-ramp, where if somebody comes shooting out of that driveway this way,
Yeah.
that's what we're trying
You
to
have the
avoid.
blind spot, and,
That's all.
you know, the pillar in the car too, or a truck.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
We can do that.
And the other thing, Mr. Chairman, are we going to ask for the list trees with larger than 24-inch diameter trunks?
Jay had discussed at the initial opening of this hearing, Jay Samuelson, that you would try to leave trees that you could in the area where you were going to grade. You would protect the ones that wouldn't be. Am I correct?
Jay had suggested that, yeah, I mean, we have kind of kept the clearing area to a minimum so that we reduce the amount of trees that we remove, consistent with what the subdivision regulations say. It would be, I guess, difficult to locate all these trees. And the only concern that Ronald has is if there's trees right near the house, he wants to make sure that it's safe for the house.
Yeah, you don't want, right.
Doesn't want to wake up one morning with an oak tree instead.
Sure. The last site visit that you guys went on, Rose, and I think Jay went with you?
Yeah, that was Monday, right? This past
Yeah,
Monday.
right. You talked about the proximity of the new proposed dwelling and garage to the Preskey property in the back. And you had suggested maybe some permanent screening in there to kind of fill in, because it's fairly open.
We made 2 site visits. I believe it was Rich and Ryan and I.
Ryan, the three of us.
And in the wintertime, and Preskey's house was very visible. And I'll speak for myself. And, but today, or Monday when we went, you could barely see it because it was just so
Yeah,
dense.
leave on, it's, everything's hidden, the same from the other house too. But maybe we could, if not some screening, maybe some agreement to keep the vegetation there, not clear right to the boundary.
Yeah, I mean, my client doesn't want to provide screening, and my advice, because it's all would be on the north side of the tree row, so it'd all be in the shade, it's really not going to be effective and live very much. We would commit to a 20-foot, strip along that property that would not be cleared.
Yeah, because there's actually, on your, there's a clear limit line marked on the site grading plan, the site plan. I think something like that where you don't have, where it's not graded in, I mean, just to keep some kind of buffering.
Yep.
You
Ross, is the garage still 50 feet off that line?
Yes, it is,
So this would be almost half of that distance would be about
correct.
20 feet.
Yeah, there's a little bit of grading behind the garage too, I believe, Ross.
Yep, little bit.
So it didn't.
It actually goes up and it goes over, so the garage is kind of a little bit behind the hill. Where
Okay.
it's located. You can see there's a knob down there between the Prestes and where the garage is, so it'll actually be,
It
that's
sets
a few
down.
feet below the grade there.
Any other comments, anyone? Yes, Bonnie.
Just with regard to that, if there's gonna be a 20-foot clearing limit, that it actually be noted, hashed in some way, so it's clear to the owners.
We will show that on the plan.
Because people will buy it and not clear. So, in as much as, it'd be nice if it's highlighted. The other question with regard to grading, when we were talking about the wetland area was, and regarding trees, was do you have to clear cut entirely, or were there any trees at all that, within that area, that didn't necessarily, individual ones have to be cut?
So it'll be significantly reduced with the movement.
Okay.
But Jay's assessment was right on the money. Basically, our goal was with this lab to go in, manpower, somebody on foot with a chainsaw, pull out anything that was smaller, 6 inches and down, cut it, 2 feet off the ground so you could see through. We don't want to remove any significant trees in that area. We could see in the wintertime when we actually did it, that you can get that site distance as long as you remove that lower vegetation. That'll be reduced significantly when we move that out.
Is the plan, because you're showing the clearing area that's hatched, but that's really what's on the property, so I think there's also another question whether, in fact, you have to actually clear into the town right away.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I mean, the town actually has done a very good job of pushing back the vegetation there, off the edge of pavement to where the trees start, with the exception of right where our driveway is coming out.
Fred?
Yes,
Just
Andrew.
one other thing. Russ, you show a proposed driveway and you show a proposed 3-bedroom dwelling. But the driveway goes up to the dwelling and it goes up to the garage, almost as if there's a garage in the house as well. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, no, it's just a turnaround area for the garage.
I guess all I was thinking was, is there any, the board's concern is, Hrushke's house getting screened, and is there any minimization of that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just enough to actually physically turn a vehicle around there, so that you could actually get in and out of there. If you pulled into the garage, you back out towards the house, or vice versa. You
Right.
go towards the house, you back into the garage.
Finish.
Somebody puts the lawnmower in the garage.
Okay. There's not a lot of grading around the house.
No, it's a pretty flat area.
Pretty flat area.
Not bad. Unless you went 50 feet to the right.
Right, right, down to the brook. Anything else, anyone? I don't know how anyone feels. Any thought about closing the hearing? I think we vetted out what issues we were gonna have on this. You think good idea to close the hearing? I mean, we don't have any document formalized yet, and we still need the plan finalized to show the driveway.
Yep, we would respectfully request that you close it, we'll bring that to the next meeting.
Um,
I'll submit it before the next meeting.
So we have 3 weeks to the next meeting, 29th. So I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing. Motion by John Brown, seconded by Ryan. All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Thank you very much. Good night.
All right.
Do we have a poll?
What was wrong? That was the only one. I didn't think, I had spoken with some of the neighbors. Okay. Next this evening, we have KCE2 LLC and KCE New York 11 LLC. New York State Route 17 Kane Grounds Road, SCU permit site plan, legal discussion. We did receive some information, end of day Friday, from Hyde Park, attorney for the project, and Aaron Curtin here tonight to help us with our discussion. Any updates, Aaron, on where we stand?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, we did have a submission on Friday that responded to
Did you go, Karen, so I could
Yes,
barely hear you last
absolutely.
time? I can't hear you.
Aaron, would you mind, tell everyone if you took off your mask?
Yeah, it's company policy, unfortunately. Is there a microphone that I can
Yeah,
use?
There's right there, okay. Thank you.
I don't have cooties, I just had it.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So Fred, yes, as you mentioned, we did have a submission on Friday. That included a response to your letter. We did want to ensure that we got everything included into a single submission. And so that was, why it came on Friday. I recognize that you may not have had a full chance to review it, so I'm here to address any questions that you have at the time. We're hopeful that we can have a discussion today to move towards an approval at the June 29th meeting. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to address.
Okay, I think one of the most important questions, if not the most important, is regarding the type of batteries. Now, it was very specific in our adopted neg deck of type of battery that was to be. Any deviation from that, we would need to update our approval decision from last fall. We've gotten communication, verbal communication from the fire department that that's what they had looked and that's what they had seen. And we were under the assumption until recently that that's what it would be, and that anything else would be something that we hadn't considered. And I don't know why. Yes, Rich?
For clarity, you're referring to the lithium battery.
Lithium-ion battery was what we've been under the assumption from the time we wrote the neg deck and adopted it
And that's
recently.
correct. We are only looking at lithium-ion batteries. We are looking at nothing other than lithium-ion batteries. There's different chemistries within lithium-ion batteries, and that is what we're looking at right now. And I will note that there's no distinction in the regulations of that chemistry. So if you're looking at, like, let's say the Department of State Energy Storage System Supplement or the FD&Y fire codes, none of those differentiate between chemistries. They accept those chemistries. It's really different chemistries within the lithium-ion category.
So lithium-ion is still what we're all talking about.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
So the negative declaration referred to an LFP, that's lithium iron phosphate. The other chemistry that we're looking at here is NMC, lithium nickel manganese cobalt. And so those are just different chemistries within that lithium ion category.
did our neg deck distinguish?
It did, it said LFP, and I think, at the time of submission, at the very start of our submission in February 2019, we were thinking that the industry was headed towards LFP only. We have since seen there be a lot of innovation and new changes within the system. We've seen a lot of regulations come out. And at this point, we're hoping to use whatever chemistry makes the most sense at the time of battery purchase, but it is all within lithium ion.
This actually says lithium iron phosphate.
Correct, that's the LFP battery.
Okay, so,
Which is just a sub-chemistry underneath lithium ion.
okay. And you're not changing that?
So we are not changing lithium ion, no. We will certainly be using lithium ion. And I will note that the regulations do differentiate between lithium ion and call it a lead acid battery. We are not considering lead acid or any type other than lithium ion.
This is lithium iron phosphate. Is there a difference?
Lithium iron phosphate, that is one chemistry subset within the lithium ion category.
Okay, and you're going to commit that this is what they'll be,
They will be a lithium ion battery,
but maybe not lithium iron phosphate?
correct.
Yes.
Lithium iron
This is our
phosphate.
dilemma.
So, yeah, if I could, so let me ask you quickly, is nickel manganese cobalt, is that also lithium?
Yes,
ion?
it is, yeah.
That's part of the problem. because the neg deck said yes to iron phosphate, but no
No.
to manganese cobalt. They're all lithium ion.
That's correct.
So I think
Okay.
that's the problem. The applicant would like to go to a broader category that actually includes something that was specifically not contemplated because of this concern about the thermal runaway.
Right. I think that's, see our dilemma.
And so we did submit a letter from our Director of Technology that was submitted on Friday.
Yes.
He has over a decade of experience in the energy storage industry. I would encourage you to read it. It really does discuss the fact that there is not a specific chemistry that is inherently significantly more dangerous than the others. Really, there are risks associated with energy storage, and that is what the regulations are there for, is to address those risks. The regulations do not say that you can't use NMC or any of that sort. There's no regulations that I'm aware of to date anywhere in the country that state that NMC should not be allowed. And so, we're really trying to focus on, the chemistries that we're addressing. Those are protected by the regulations. The regulations really do address all of them.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure, Rich.
Now, the two different types of battery chemistry, is there in particular are they different sizes? Is there different spacing on the racks? In other words, requiring to get the same amount of voltage stored, you need a bigger building or a smaller building, depending on the size of the battery?
Yeah, so NMC batteries are more energy dense than LFP. And so in particular, when you have these very land constrained areas, NMC may make more sense. Additionally, the use cases are better for some than others. NMC batteries are able to respond very quickly to changes in charging or discharging. And so for a system that is expected to do that, that would be your preferred option. It would be the best option for that. Our use cases will end up being dependent on the Central Hudson Gas and Electric and NISO studies. Those studies will depend or will dictate potentially some use case restrictions on our batteries. And so once we know our ultimate use case, that will affect which chemistry and which vendor we would pick. And those studies are underway. That's really the timeline that we're waiting on for our projects. Unfortunately, out of our control is with the utilities. And so that is why we are not sure at this date.
My question in particular goes to, do you have to change the size of the building if, for instance, the batteries are bigger or they need to be separated further, or for instance, the different types of batteries?
Yeah, so we have sized our system to try to accommodate either chemistry.
All right, good. Yes.
So racking is similar?
Yes, racking is similar,
You take
yeah.
out an M and put it in an LC?
I actually don't know the answer to that. I would think it probably would have some differences. I do not know, unfortunately. This is a place where I would love to have our Director of Technology here to answer these questions. He is 100% the expert on this. I am taking what he's telling me, but he is the expert on this all.
And fire suppression is the same? Are there any changes if we do agree to this change? Are there subsequent changes that would also have to be made to what we've already read?
So fire suppression might even be different within the same chemistry. It's different by vendor. The vendors will choose the system that makes the most sense. It's very similar to the fire suppression you'd see in a data center or a ship or something like that. And so it really comes down to vendor for fire suppression rather than industry, I've seen.
And we've already had an initial approval from the fire chief, right?
Yes, we provided the information to the fire chief for our New York 1 project, which is an NMC battery.
There was a footnote to that. I think Chief Hunt is going to get with our building department at the time the formal building plans were filed to work out the final details, because he was concerned with thermal runaway.
Yeah.
And all I'll conclude with is, unless the board is comfortable, I think we need our own engineer to review this. I'm I'm not qualified to understand what I mean, especially that report you referred to.
I'm recused on
And Andrew's recused.
Yeah, and I noticed even in the neg deck, the final facility design plan shall be prepared in compliance with the IFC 2021 fire code. Now, I think there's some amendments to this, our neg deck that would need to be done prior to.
Doesn't the neg deck say if the draft 2021 plans are in draft form, either at the time of
You're right.
permit issuance or building permit issuance, you'll use the 2021? But there's something in Friday's response that says, help me out, it really doesn't matter because your plans track the 2021 concept, which you were made aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to talk about that. So the Department of State, the New York Department of State was able to receive a draft copy of the 2021 International Fire Code. That's something that the public still does not have access to. They incorporated that document into their energy storage system supplement that was released in the summer of 2019, and it was approved finally in November of 2019. And that tracks very closely to what we've been told will be in the 2021 International Fire Code. And that is in effect, so we will have to comply with that. From what I'm hearing right now, it sounds like the 2021 Fire Code will be released in fall of 2020. It's still going through an appeals process for, it's a much larger document than just the energy storage section. So there has not been a draft that's been released yet to the public.
Okay, so then our neg deck shouldn't need to be modified,
Sure.
should not be.
On that issue?
On that issue.
I don't think
Okay.
so, if the board is still, because at the time of building permit issuance was
Whatever it
another
is.
timeline. I don't know if they'll be pulling the permit for the fall. If they do, I guess they can follow the 2019 as I read the neg deck.
Right. But as far as the lithium iron phosphate batteries, that may not be the case, and that would need to be changed. It'd have to be somehow fixed.
I would agree.
Yeah, plus it says no nickel manganese cobalt battery systems.
It's very specific. And I believe, I'm speculating that Leslie Dotson, who wrote that, was in communication with someone from the project team. I suspect Leslie didn't just, in fact, she says it's been explained that. And I'm sure no one on our side of the table explained that to Leslie. So I think she got that information. It may have been correct at the time. And I think what we're hearing is there's new stuff out there. And we have a report, and we'd love to have one of our people sign off on it. And we just feel more comfortable.
On the report we just got.
Everything we got Friday at
Yes.
5.
On this.
Especially, yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Clark's response, but most importantly, the 3-page, I'm sorry, his name escapes me.
Ken Rush, our Director of
Ken Rush.
Technology, yes.
He was talking the language I wasn't familiar with.
I don't have any notes to say that we discussed the differences. I think, so Leslie, and what communication we had and what we had discussed, we were under the impression with the iron phosphate.
And Leslie went further to indicate the perhaps harmful effects of the not chosen alternative. And hopefully this bill from Friday will help address that, because that language is very, very specific.
Yeah. So we need to review what we got, and we need to have our engineer look at it, Mr. Farr. And, he's busy, but I'll reach out to him and we'll get this done.
Yeah, specifically tab 2.
Yeah.
Rich, is that what you're referring to?
I'm sorry, John.
I'm sorry. Tab 2, which is Mr. Rush's. Yes. Tab 2.
This, yeah.
So we get Jim Farr to look at it. So the civil engineer.
You'll need to have someone, I'm sure, look at it.
Yeah, it's,
As far, because the decommissioning issue has come up also, and I think that we need him to look at that.
the only electrical design engineer is Jerry Lucci, Goshen. Does all, does mostly what I call 60 hertz, it's lighting and outlets and jazz like that. I don't know whether he's a battery guy too. Falliser does some electrical and mechanical, I think. I don't know anybody else in the county unless it's, Mazur's recused. I know other big outfits in the county.
Any suggestions, Andy? Any?
I could probably give you some names, maybe Jim could also.
Let's
I'm
start
thinking
there.
an architect, but, I'm not talking a building here,
Yeah.
so.
Andrew, I'll send you a couple names, you can vet them.
Sure. Or just send them to these guys.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll get somebody to review that, because, as we say, it's foreign to us.
It's really specific. Are you qualified to review this? Simple question,
Right, and, especially this battery type question, I think is.
And as the chairman correctly pointed out, we need help on the decommissioning end. Mr. Clark's latest version has the applicant picking the vendor who will assess the decommissioning plan. He has agreed that the town board will set the amount, but that doesn't answer the fundamental question of who's going to review it. And so really, our expert could be a two-parter. Help us with our issues plus the decommission.
Yes.
And I think it's safe to say this is brand new territory for all of us here in the room.
Right. On another note, I know that there was an outlet on one of the on the bioretention area. Had that gotten resolved?
Yes, so the correct location is on the site plans. It was the wetland planting plan that had incorrectly indicated that the outlet would be facing north. Should have been facing east.
Okay.
And so I know our consultant, Killian Aldrich, has reached out to Bonnie. He also has reached out to the DEC, essentially trying to get a letter stating that the change of the SWIP does not affect it. That is an email that went out today, I believe, and so I expect to get that back hopefully this week.
So we should get that, and we should have our consultant look at this key capture energy information in these tabs. Anything else? And next gonna have to be, we'll know when we hear from our consultant, right? It may have to be changed,
I have a question.
okay?
Are we doing a subdivision on this property?
Yeah.
So our neg deck is going to cover something that we haven't even looked at? The KC2?
Well, they're not.
The neg deck already covers everything.
The neg deck covered both projects, October 28th,
realize.
2019. And
But I thought there was like issues like wetland mitigation or,
well, KCE2 is an issue the board has to work through. KCE 11, I think, was approvable if this battery and 2021 building code issue and
Right.
decommission.
Right.
Those were the three issues for KCE 11.
but we really haven't worked through those issues on KCE2.
Well, one question would be, I suppose the alternative battery choice the applicant would like for both projects, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Even if a year from now, when you go to do two, somebody comes up with a new battery design that's much more efficient or whatever, you're still gonna go with the older technology?
Yeah, and so I think we have to comply with a variety of safety regulations already. We have to comply with all international fire code, building code, Department of State Energy Storage Supplement, a variety of safety codes, and those codes are constantly being addressed, or updated rather, to address any new technologies or any new safety. And so it is the applicant's opinion that that covers, those topics. If those regulations are not saying that NMC is unsafe and should not be used, or, another chemistry, we believe that it is, the safety of those systems are being thoroughly reviewed by experts at the moment.
Sure. I just didn't know whether we still had that AC, so that's all.
But I think you're looking for anything under the lithium-ion umbrella, is that right?
Correct.
Any of those technologies, whether it's the two you mentioned, or I guess there may be several more.
Yeah, at the moment, I do only foresee lithium iron phosphate LFP or NMC, but yes, we would be looking for underneath the lithium ion category. Yes.
Okay. Once we get that resolved, we'll get this to our consultant to look that over on those items.
What I think the confusion is that is they're all lithium, but iron phosphate is an ion, nickel manganese is an ion. So they're all lithium ion
Correct.
batteries. And that's where confusion is.
We had a
Iron
specific,
and ion are getting confused.
we had a lithium ion phosphate in our neck deck. Lithium ion can have a lot of names in it. Yes. So that's how you get clarified.
Yes.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll get some answers soon. I'll be back in on next meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. So at this point, should we expect to hear from your engineer, or is there anything else that Key Factor should be providing at this
Well,
time?
we may be getting, we'll be getting you some information, but actually, we've got to read through the material we got Friday first, okay? All
Understood.
of it. And we'll get it to the proper people and we'll get a comment letter back.
Okay,
Okay?
great, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
No. All right, I think we're gonna go out of order a little bit tonight, and we'll discuss Red Birch next. If they're here. Next we have Red Birch Inc. SCU permit a site plan 2-lot subdivision. We got some revised plans, so this is the presentation. Representing the applicants, Larry Marshall. How are you, Larry?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So this is this was the previously approved Red Birch site plan that was approved for self-storage buildings on the entirety of the site. The applicant's been marketing the property with very little success to sell it. So they revised their application to go for a different approach. And what they'd like to do is do a 2-lot subdivision subdividing the existing property into lot 1, 5.7 acres, and lot 2 would be the rear property at 13.1 acres. And then they want to change up what's on the site a little bit. So the front of the property would remain as basically as it was. The 2 climate-controlled buildings out front, they would be the same as what was there. And then we're going to change the orientation of the self-storage buildings. Behind those, basically 6 buildings, each building being 6,900 square feet. And that would be on proposed lot 1. Proposed lot 2 would change from what was previously approved as the self-storage buildings, the non-climate controlled standard overhead facilities, into a 39,900 square foot flex space building in the rear of the property. The infiltration basins would pretty much would stay the same with some modifications in the general same area. Drainage patterns would be consistent. But obviously this is a very preliminary plan, initial presentation to get some board feedback.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Now, the building in the back would be flex space, but everything out front self-storage, even the climate control, correct?
Yes. No, nothing, the appearance from the road would change, virtually the same.
Okay.
Very little change to anything out in front. I guess if you look down the driveway, which is not going to be really visible, you could potentially see the room in the back, but the terrain really doesn't lend itself.
Yes, Rich?
Larry, help me out. Did the approved plan show the self-storage perpendicular to 17K or parallel?
These, in here,
Yeah.
they were perpendicular. So we rotated these buildings and oriented them the opposite way.
The code, and we'll come on this in Northern Sky in a minute, stresses that we try to get these buildings perpendicular to the road. Beehive, for example. In other words, the gable end facing the road, not the big long expanse. However, the code does contemplate that maybe that wouldn't be possible. And I'll read it. Wherever possible, any, and we're talking self-storage, new buildings should be located so their long dimension is perpendicular to the front of the street. It continues, building facades facing the front of the street shall be on masonry construction. That's what it says. So I think it's a guide with those kinds of where possible.
Now, these totally would be blocked by the climate control, perhaps?
Yeah, and that's what our thought process was. We understand the visibility of having, a long, small building with just overhead doors, the unsightly nature of that. But the climate controlled buildings are proposed to still be the same rendering. Fred's got it there. Thank you. Consistent with that. And really the only openings that you'd possibly be able to see into this area would be in between the two buildings, which is about 30 feet, a little more than 30 feet on the narrowest point, and then on each of the edges, which we plan to supplement with some landscaping. So it really doesn't have that visibility of the, I know your code states it, but I think it's more of a visual thing. What we found was that this orientation fits a little bit better in more of a compact space, reducing the overall impervious surface, and then it fits a little bit better with the contours.
Let me ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt, just one other question. Building facades facing the front of the street shall be on masonry construction. What would the alternative be?
I don't know.
On masonry.
On masonry
That's
construction.
right
we have
out of code. So
concrete.
on masonry.
On a foundation or a slab, right? Not a pole barn, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
On masonry construction, that's a good one.
Maybe it's supposed to say of,
Of masonry construction,
Yeah,
that would make
maybe.
sense, but
I mean, grasping.
No, you might be right.
I was thinking that's the one question.
Well, to take that further, would that be a block building as opposed to a metal sided building? If it had to be of masonry versus on masonry?
Of masonry construction for appearances would be somewhat problematic, because you'd have to dress up a concrete wall. It'd be easier to dress up a frame wall.
Exactly.
I could see I don't know.
Again, the alternative to being on masonry construction would be,
of masonry.
no, is there anything you could build on
On
that wasn't masonry?
No, I mean, you always, what?
You could put a pole barn.
Yeah, you could put a pole barn up, that would be the only alternative.
Right.
So maybe that would
It's-
be.
Yeah, it's not, these are not conducive to pole barn, so.
Maybe not, is correct. Thank you.
Anyone else?
So those storage buildings aren't visible at all with the climate control units in front.
I wouldn't say at all, I would say very limited, because you have the landscaping that would be in between the two buildings, and then the landscaping that supplements around the perimeter. I don't see them being highly visible at all.
It's going to be fenced in, right?
Tree line on
It's
the
required.
property After, on the west,
Those would be minimal, I think.
There's a tree line here that runs along the property line, not proposed to be disturbed in any manner.
on the other side too.
There is some, yeah, we will maintain, we do have to put in a stormwater dry swale here. So that's gonna take up a little bit of the vegetation that's in there. But we do intend to supplement the landscaping around the entryway here and here to further screen that.
So eastbound traffic may, in fact, be able to see using bridges or the gable ends of those storage buildings?
Possibly. What our intention is to really screen it.
Okay.
You know, we want to, we do want to hide it, not hide it, but we want to showcase the self-storage buildings in the front, the climate control.
Yeah. Okay.
So the two buildings in front would be built either before or simultaneous with the self-storage, as opposed to the other way around?
We had a phasing plan last time, and we would stick with, consistent with that, where I believe that I have to look back on it, but we would again show a phasing plan for stormwater purposes or construction. But we would stick with that. Consistently.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple
Yes.
of questions. Go ahead.
Yep, go ahead, Rich.
The two climate control buildings in the front, I don't see any way for a moving van or any kind of box fan or a moving trailer or anything that can back up and unload. Just doesn't seem to be any space to go in any kind of truck vehicle into this, those buildings.
They pull into the back.
Yeah, the backs would have an entryways on the back sides of the building. So you pull in, you pull in the access drive, turn right or east, pull up to the gate, open the gate, and pull in, and then back up to a single overhead door or doubles, or or a man door.
So you're just gonna have a single door in each building, loading dock or whatever?
Yeah, that's consistent with, you don't, not, the self-storage buildings, you don't want multiple points of entry. You want one point of entry into a hallway.
Just trying to figure out what you know. Second thing is, in climate control buildings, you're not gonna be storing produce or any type of thing like that, or?
No, it's not food storage, no.
Well, I mean, I think you need to be specific about what can be stored in these buildings, climate control buildings.
Climate control means they're not refrigerated.
It just means it means they're not gonna get below freezing, basically.
Okay,
And they have a mild amount of air conditioning. And you have a wide range of temperatures that it does.
and I would like to see that specified somehow.
You wanna know the temperature ranges for the climate
Yes,
control buildings?
please.
Okay.
Controls what may be stored in these buildings, for instance.
Okay.
The units have their individual controls, I think that's what Rich is getting at.
No.
It's just one temperature for the
No,
whole
they-
building, just so it doesn't
Yeah.
get below freezing or over 100 degrees.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the interior partitions inside the building are made, very thin construction, just as a barrier, as a safety barrier, and security barrier between the next person's belongings. They don't offer any sort of means of adjusting temperatures or providing additional heat or air conditioning.
I appreciate that, I just, people can get imaginative in what they want to store in their units. I just want to make sure that,
Yeah,
I don't think that falls under, I have to look at the definitions, but I think you're talking about things that fall outside of the
I
proposed
could
use.
be,
Yeah, I think that falls well outside of what a climate-controlled self-storage building is.
okay, I don't think we have any particular definition anywhere.
you mean to imply, I think he means to imply maintaining a constant room temperature. If that's 72 degrees or, whatever it is,
So it doesn't get humid or doesn't.
Right, it doesn't say refrigerator.
Affect what's
Yeah.
being stored there.
I mean, if you're worried about refrigeration, we can add a notation that says that that
It's not.
I'm not sure of the notation, we can work on a note.
It's not
on the
cold
plan.
It's just
storage.
climate
It's not cold
control.
Yeah,
Climate
it's
control.
storage would be,
I just want
It's not
to
stored.
be a little more specific on what you by climate control or something.
Yeah, I don't, if you need a notation about the specifications of it, I can, I'll find out some information about it, but, it's consistent with other climate control stuff, so.
Yeah, I don't know that we've never done a climate controlled storage facility, so I'm just asking for a little.
My basic question maybe, was the self-storage facility already approved before?
It was
Yes.
a permitted, or we got a variance for use.
Oh, so you have the use variance?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that was my fundamental question. So, if they're reorienting anything, does that affect the variance in any way? Do we have a copy of what was approved?
We'd have to go back and look at it, put the wrong map.
I don't think there was any specifications in the ZBA. I'm going to speak based on memory, so if I'm incorrect, I'll look at the resolution. But my recollection is based upon the resolution that was passed by the ZBA was that as long as we had the barn building, the barn appearance, self-storage buildings in the front, the climate control buildings in the front, that there was no restriction on orientation of the buildings in the rear.
What about to do with the use variance?
It's been many years.
Before 2010 or 4 years?
No, it wasn't before 2010.
It was
Yeah.
2016.
2016 was when they had the hearing, the ZBA.
Okay.
Larry, didn't you say at the prior approval that the insurance carriers prohibit, as our code does, hazardous materials?
Absolutely.
Flammables, gasoline. In fact, didn't I hear if you store a vehicle, you have to drain the fluids out
Yes.
of it?
You absolutely do.
The industry is probably tighter than our zoning?
Yeah. The restrictions are, and that applies not only to the self-storage building, the climate control in the front, but also applies to all the buildings in the rear. If you have a motorcycle that you're storing there, you have to drain the fluids. If you're storing it inside, that would be, any insurance carrier will not insure the buildings that you have and store flammable fluids inside the buildings.
One last question, if I may, and this is for the engineers. Again, our special conditions, the last one, drainage. Any storm sewer discharging to surface swale or drainage way shall discharge into a basin with a minimum storage capacity of 1/4 acre feet per acre of impervious site.
We hit this on that.
Yeah, we had to go through this. It's that ends up being in the case of the last application for all the self-storage buildings that we had. It was actually, that requirement was more restrictive than the current stormwater, DEC stormwater requirements. So we had to demonstrate to Andrew's office that we had that storage.
We did this before.
You'll do it again.
That other very small self.
Yeah, we did the building over on Albany Post Road.
It has
Yeah,
small bases.
Yeah, we had
It
to,
wouldn't have needed anything, I don't believe, right?
and we had to
But
put in
for
a
that
big,
code,
a
it
big
was
basin
more
for that.
stretching.
So you'll look at that.
Yeah, but I mean, this is, the basins that he's got are gonna far, super, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we shouldn't have a problem
Yeah.
of using those requirements.
I just, not familiar with that kind of specificity under a use set of conditions.
It's unique, I mean, I would assume that it predates the stormwater regs, but now that the stormwater regs are in place, it's a little bit archaic.
Can I just get a clarification on moratorium law? I mean, obviously the rear building is 100 square feet less than the 40,000. You don't add up all those little self-storages and call them one building, do you?
I don't recall that the moratorium law specifically said, oh, self-storage is also a warehouse. It did say flex space could be considered a warehouse and therefore the moratorium applies. I don't recall it getting into the self-storage units.
It's certainly a whole different operation and
Sure.
everything. I mean, just to get it off the table. There's more than 40,000 square feet in that front lot.
Yeah.
Just so it's, triple of that.
Yeah, I think, the code, the moratorium does, we read through it, and it applies to the self-storage, the flex space and warehousing, and distribution facilities. But self-storage is a different use in the zoning altogether. Self-storage warehousing is a different use. So it's, it has a common word, but it's not the two are not linked in the moratorium. That's how I read it.
And maybe when you think about it, most people using self-storage, aren't bringing in WB 62 or WB 40 trailer trucks, number one, like a warehouse would. And unless, how many 24/7 deliveries to a self-storage or pickups really are there? I mean, I think we contemplate that the use is pretty benign. In fact, the parking for self-storage is only based on the square footage of the office in the self-storage unit. Under the theory that people don't need to park, they're coming, dropping off, or coming and picking up.
I never see anyone that don't want it on home, never. There's 3 buildings or 4.
And he's got a full.
It's just a brand
Big man.
One thing that the current plan does is takes the parking in the driveway and brings it around the back of the building. On one of the earlier designs, it was on the side of one of those buildings. So you would have seen it, now you don't. So you're gonna see, the architecture of these buildings rather than cars and a driveway.
I need to get a tiny bit more specific on temperature control buildings. The reason why I say that is tulip bulbs from Holland, they may be $1,000 a bulb or $10,000 a bulb. So storage in this type of building of tulip bulbs, for instance, could attract insects, mice, for instance, and that's why I kind of raised the issue. There's armchairs that could attract vermin.
What's interesting is that there are storage facilities being built in and around Woodbury Commons because they're actually storing their materials in some of the storage warehouses. And I think that's pushing out what people would have otherwise, it's driving up prices plus pushing out people who would just use the storage near there for their own personal use. I'm fine, it's just a trend. Larry, just to add that as the site plans advance, probably use to put the use variance notation on the map itself.
Sure.
Yeah, on the application. And the other is that I believe you indicated that it's 13 acres that are to be altered. And I believe when you hit 10 acres, you're into type 1, so it's the long form, yeah.
Just my notes, September 23rd of 19, initial presentation by Larry. Type 1 because greater than 10 acres. Larry did get the long EAF. We declared lead, but we couldn't circulate until we got the long EAF, which did we get? So I think tonight, the reason we have this is to re-declare lead because we don't want to circulate on a September 23rd.
Yeah, the plan has changed substantially since then.
So we should just re-declare and you'll get us the long EAF so that we can circulate in a timely fashion. So
Makes sense.
now, with type 1, I don't know if it was discussed in September, we have to coordinate with type 1 as long as we know who we need to coordinate with. So state DOT, health department, are there any services here or is, what are they doing?
There's no water and sewer. So it's
Any
private
of the
property.
buildings? Well, the
Not
warehouse.
the flex space building?
There's private well and septic. There's no public, there's no municipal services.
Do the self-storage units have any facilities at all, or is it just the flex space?
We would just have a small bathroom for the office area.
And no one on site for the climate control, because often they have someone there managing it.
I don't have specifics to that, I can try to find out. They're, most of the time it's key card, and they go up, swipe their key card, credit card, and if their credit card, if they haven't paid the date, they just won't obtain access.
Okay.
So they set up for that, you know, need somebody on site to do the initial setup, call before, you know, they call before they go there. It's not really a manned facility, but I can confirm that with them.
There's also a phone app now. I know the ones our daughters at college. It's all done over the phone, there isn't in person. There's video cameras. You get your picture taken, show them your phone.
You just rented a U-Haul truck with my phone.
Yeah.
First time ever. I moved my son out of college. Couldn't believe it. So nobody was there.
Yeah.
You get the key. You know?
Comes out when you get pizza.
You take a picture of yourself. Take a picture of your driver's license. Take a picture of yourself. You prove that you're you.
Checking it out his appointment, take a picture of your insurance card, your license on your phone, send it to him. You know where you are all the time.
And then you put the image on you, so.
You see it all over the place. You're an extra road person? Okay.
Yeah, you'd be in trouble.
Just for clarification, Larry, if you're heading westbound, okay, toward Montgomery, can you see the buildings behind the two climate control buildings?
There's gonna, the existing tree row that's on the property line will remain, there's no proposed disturbance to that.
What's that, 20 feet, did you say?
20 feet wide.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was 20 feet wide.
I didn't give any specification.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Is that the width that you asked for? It varies.
Okay.
But we intend to supplement that with landscaping, which we had on the last application as well.
I believe there's residents to the east of that.
Yeah, so we will, that is the RA zoning district, and there is the residence. So we don't want to, we want to screen that. So as the plan progresses, we get the landscaping plan, we will screen that side.
The fence is on the property line, and then there is quite a bit of space between the fence on the line and the edge of the driveway around the storage units. There's quite a bit of space there.
Jay, didn't we see a drainage ditch or something there on the
Yeah.
other side?
There is.
Thank you, Larry.
Anyone else?
Just a quick question.
Yes.
I just saw, it looks like there may be some circulation issues coming into the self-storage units, specifically behind the first one when you come in. People driving around this are going to come around in some kind of loop. It looks like they come around, this is the east side, and back around, but then to get out, you have to kind of make two sharp turns and almost make a 180-degree turn there. So if you could take a look at that, is that up, or
Yeah, we can do that.
maybe make the driveway a little bit more to the north? And then in the back, the flex space building, trailers, I don't know what size trailers are gonna come in here, but the trailer parked in the most western space is gonna have a tough time to get out of there. So maybe just take a look at that and make sure that that's doable.
We can run the truck turns, actually.
Should the fire department say no comments about that?
Rear line access.
Yeah, our trucks are going to
Yeah. Around the building.
So when Nick, you saw it, that we went through some gyrations with Medline on lighting, and especially since this is extra RA, we'll probably go for, move toward dark sky compliant, basically. Not amber, but really more on the yellow spectrum of lighting. So
Yeah, check back with us, we have all sorts of stuff now from Medline that we've really come to embrace.
When we get to that level, who should we reach out to?
Brian.
Bill Coast that we're doing stuff, or?
He's some, but he's, well, he's, you know,
We'll figure it out when we
we'll
get
figure it out. Yeah.
I'll reach out to Sue and just ask,
Yeah.
find out from Sue who I should reach out to.
Okay.
And then we'll, whatever you've seen in the past that you like, we'll certainly see if we can, we'll accommodate it. You know, if it's a certain temperature color that you want to see, and none of that is really problematic.
Okay, sure.
How long did the, forget with the Army Corps, how long is the delineation? How long is it good for?
5 years.
Okay. Figure out.
We are 4 years.
4 years, but it was never sent to Army Corps?
We did not send it home before.
Are the markers still up or no?
I doubt it, given the vegetation and the amount of deer in the area, I doubt it. I mean, we can go in using the location that we've previously done and rehang the flags, if that's a need.
Did Mr. Ferguson provide any kind of delineation report with the, sort of with the points and?
And the sheets,
sheets?
I have to look back, it's been 4 years. I can look back on it. If not, I can reach back out to him and see if he can go back out and revisit it.
So make sure it's up to date, not 4 years. Okay.
Yes, Rich?
Larry, I just noticed on the location map, it looks like one of those old USGS maps. And they have little boxes, which I think were meant to represent structures
Yes.
at the time. And there were 3 of them within your client's 19 or so acres. Did you see any evidence out there?
We used to have a mobile home park on the property. This was previously a mobile home park. So we have come across that he has a well in the back with an abandoned well house. He actually sent some photographs to us of him installing the water line from the well house up to the trailers in the front, mobile homes. Sorry. But that's I believe those are the structures that are referenced.
They could have been mobile homes.
I believe so.
And do you know the vintage of this?
That map,
Yeah.
I have to check, it's the most recent one.
Oh, that's 60s, right?
Most recent
No.
2016,
Of the USGS.
according to Netter.
I can
I'm
double
sorry,
check.
Larry, what did you say?
According to, it's called Netter, online. I'm not sure that it's the 2016, it may be older.
I don't think it's the 2016, I don't think, I can double check that. But we use whatever we go to the USGS website to download the quadrangles. I'm gonna say they were in the early 90s. But I have to check.
And you're gonna have to cap the old well.
We don't have any proposed changes to the well, is there?
Well, you have a new well, I think, indicated by the parking for the flex building. And then you have an abandoned well house down in the federal wetlands.
Yep.
Would you have to seal that?
There's no proposed use of it.
You're not gonna disturb it,
We were just gonna leave
stay
it.
away from it, right?
Yep. Honestly, accessing it, we would probably do more harm to
Yeah.
the neighboring federal wetlands.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, pose a motion to declare lead. Motion by Jay, seconded by Rose. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you very much, good to see you all.
Good to see you. All right. Next this evening, we've got Autumn Sky Development Company, Inc., North Drury Lane. SCU permit site plan, 2-lot subdivision. Approval discussion. Now, I did get a phone call from Mr. Petrowski this evening. Because we got a letter from the historian in regard to beams in the old barn, and Corey McConaughey had actually gotten some beams out, and because it was under application, he stopped. But he'd gotten some, according to Steve. He also commented to me that somebody's been in stealing them, so there's more gone. But he is willing to give us some time, public some time, if somebody with insurance wants to come in and wants to do some, or the court will want to use some more. But the buildings are in poor shape, but there are elements of them that could be salvageable. Mold hand-hewn beams, I suppose, beams and posts. So that's what I know on that. Anybody with anything else on Autumn Sky?
Everyone had a chance to read the memo I did today. I'm sorry it was only came today. Where I proposed some conditions.
And maybe we should read through the conditions one at a time and.
Yeah, before we start taking votes, first
Right.
of all, I'm suggesting 3 separate votes. Back up. Hearing was closed way back in January 13th, and the neg deck was adopted, as you remember, just at our last meeting, May 26th. I'm suggesting 3 votes. Approve the 2-lot subdivision. Approve the SEU permit and site plan for the self-storage on lot 1. It's 13,400 square feet of gross floor area, 2 buildings. And then the third resolution would be approve the SEU permit and site plan for the warehouse on lot 2, which is 30,150 square feet. If possible, to make my life easier, if the same 2 members could move all 3 resolutions, just cheating here a little bit, then our written resolution won't have 3 different votes. It will have 1 vote adopting 3 resolutions. Not a big deal if that doesn't work out. But I think the conditions would really apply to all 3 resolutions because everything's pretty much intertwined. What the resolutions need to include though, which they will, as long as you orally cover that tonight, are the findings that we make on every special use permit. As you know, we have our general standards, and I won't bore you with every word, but the site is sized enough for the use. It won't prevent the orderly use of adjacent properties. It's not unsuitably near a church, school, or other place of public assembly. Access, parking, water, sewer, stormwater, buffer screening, fencing. Those are all what you would find for any special use permit, and you can find them for both of these tonight. However, both uses have their own separate conditions. And for self-storage, we've already spent some time tonight talking about one of them, about the location of the buildings perpendicular or parallel, but just quickly, dead storage only. Dead storage shall mean the keeping of goods not in use and not associated with any office, retail, or other business activity conducted on the premises. Interesting. Inside storage required, outside storage prohibited except for boats and campers. I think they have no room. One of the conditions which I didn't put in the memo, but I added it in a pen after I sent it, simply no outdoor storage, because I just don't think there's room. You don't want someone sticking a boat in the caddy corner in a corner.
Yeah, blocking something.
Blocking someone else or
Make someone
causing
else.
a problem. We talked about the orientation of buildings. Drives shall be minimum 20 feet, I'm sure Andrew has that covered. Hazardous materials prohibited. Plantings, fencing, security, and drainage. So those are all, you could make affirmative findings on all of them for self-storage. The warehouses, we're familiar with these certainly, because these would apply to any size warehouse. Loading bays can't face street frontage, these don't. By the way, the loading bays are on the south side of the warehouse, and I think there are only 2 docks. It's 30,000 square feet, but I see on the plan it's 2 docks. So compare that with some of the other warehouses we've recently approved. This was interesting. Truck storage parking running not located within 300 feet of a residential boundary. I called Mike Morgante tonight to confirm those 18 parking spots on the north side of the warehouse are not for trucks. Those are employees or what have you, because they are clearly within 300 feet of the R18 boundary, which is only about 150 feet to the north. Has to be 5 acres. Actually, warehouses with 8 or more loading docks, so this only has 2, and these are more than 5 acres, I believe. Pretty sure it's a 9-acre piece, or is it bigger than that? And that's it. That deck has
5.3.
9.16 total. Lot 1, 3.8, and that's the self-storage. Lot 2, 5.3. Actually, with only 2 docks, it didn't have to be 5 acres. And then truck parking should be screened from adjacent property by a landscape area. I assume that's been done on the plans. The truck parking, which should be on the south side, right?
Yes.
Well, I'm pretty, does anyone remember the landscape plan? Yeah,
Yeah, so Dunkin' Donuts, this is truck parking, no landscape plan.
Which is over the 17 case on
Right.
by the way, the board, can waive that if the parking area abuts another truck storage area or use, which in the opinion of the planning board doesn't require screening. Now, that's at Dunkin' Donuts Northern Access where you come in, swing around to the drive-through. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't, it doesn't really even face that. It's kitty cornered in the lot. It faces more 17K, and it's, 400 feet from 17K.
Actually, the code,
350.
truck parking in all districts should be screened from all adjacent properties unless you continue it's not necessary. And that's a 25-foot screen, and I don't think you showed it.
No, there's some landscaping, but it's not 20 feet.
Right. Much more narrow.
It's much more narrow.
It's, what is it, 3 or 4 plantings, maybe?
Yeah, there's a couple large trees and maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 large trees and 4 small ones.
So you have to decide if the landscaping should be waived because of what is there, which basically is Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, there's a large wetland there.
Yeah.
And then there's a DEP property up before, that you see. And they really don't show parking. They don't show truck, I don't see truck spaces, am I wrong?
No, it's not parking, it's
So they can swing around and it's like
Yeah.
in there.
So that it's a moot point.
just for maneuvering.
It's not parking.
It's not parking, it's unloading and then you leave the site.
Right. Yeah, they're not showing any truck parking.
Right.
That's the side with the bays.
Sorry?
That's the side with the bays.
Correct, yes.
So maybe the condition should be no truck parking, or there's no truck parking in that area. And of course, that can't be park to the north,
No room.
well, they can't be within 300 feet of the residential, so they're kind of tight site.
There was a long narrative, we got back in April from Mike. I read it, but I don't remember if he responded to that. I don't know, I didn't see that response in here, but I do believe that, I mean,
March 30th, Mike spent a fair amount of time on the transitional yard, which was to the north,
right,
which we had some comments. Fred, do you think that was also the same letter?
that was the one I was just referring to, but I don't believe it's covered, that 25-foot screening.
He was, I got, let me see the date of the letter.
Date is
March 30.
Yes,
All he's talking about, the page with the transitional
Yep.
yard is the only spot where he's speaking about landscaping, right?
correct.
It doesn't,
That's what I
it
thought.
refers to that on the north, not the screening on the south.
I mean, there are some plantings there. It does not show truck parking. It may be difficult to park a truck in there, given the size of the parking lot, and then get another one in, because you can only have one type of each at the same time, I believe.
Yeah, I clarified that with him this evening also. As I wrote it in the memo this morning, I read that to Mike, and he said that was correct. You can only get one WB 62 in there at one time, or two WB 40s at one time. Apparently it's quite tight.
And that, even
The truck
40s
turn-
is gonna be tight.
The truck turn diagram is
It's very
interesting.
Yeah,
You have to be a professional driver.
to maneuver.
You do.
It's just like the Dunkin' Donuts sign
Yeah.
on the way.
You have to
Hopefully they're not
know.
parked, hopefully they're not parked here when they come and get the garbage. We talked.
Yeah, because they've
It
done
has to be a professional.
So would it be fair to say they don't have room to park trucks, which makes the issue go away?
I'd say so.
Because then they don't have to do the 25-foot screen
Yes.
and not parking.
Yeah, there's really,
Yeah, that's the one,
Yeah,
yeah.
look at the swing on this thing.
Okay.
Notice.
you park something there, there's no way anything else.
Takes
Done.
You're done, you're getting towed out.
I think the other issue is just practically speaking, he's got the wetland there. So he actually can't do that.
True.
That he's retaining,
Yeah.
planting between the wetland and.
Very limited to what we can do.
Right, between the truck parking area.
Okay.
So maybe no truck parking.
South end of large building, lot 2.
Okay, well then, I think you've covered all the findings you have to make, assuming in the affirmative on everything I said. And then the issue would be the actual conditions. And I did the list kind of in a hurry in lieu of getting you a formal resolution last week. So no hours of operation I missed. They had said 24/7 for the self-storage, which has been
Yep.
customary, but 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. on the warehouse. Another one I thought of after I sent the memo, there shouldn't be any blasting without further planning board approval and DEP approval.
Correct.
We sent a hearing notice to the DEP for the public hearing, which opened November 25th, and we never heard from DEP at all. But maybe they reviewed, maybe they looked at the plans, I don't know. they maintain, they don't expect to have to blast. And so therefore, it seems to be a non-issue. I mean, I wouldn't be so concerned, but isn't this right next to the
Yes.
aqueduct?
Yes.
The neg deck says the project site is directly adjacent to the Catskill Aqueduct, and thus no blasting shall be permitted.
And I might suggest that our condition for the SEU would be no blasting without further planning board review and approval, because one never knows. But in not only this board, but then we would have to get DEP involved.
Have to.
And if they don't need to blast, the issue goes away. So, then we talked about no outdoor storage, we talked about no truck parking on the south side of lot 2. And then the new issue, you think 45 days, it would be a reasonable time to arrange for the further salvage from those buildings? Because we have received, as Fred pointed out, the historian's letter, which we only got today. If we had a few more days to react to it, we could have set it up a little better. You talked to the applicant tonight, I talked to his engineer, and we learned that Mr. McConnell took some stuff, looters have taken some stuff, and how much is really left is hard to say. But I want to give deference to the historian. The supervisor weighed in and said that we have volunteers that, you know, in Medline, they're salvaging.
Yeah, they got somebody in there.
Read in today's record.
They got somebody in there
This
fixing
is
it.
an article. I would think maybe 45 days
Yeah.
would be reasonable. I also think it shouldn't be open to anyone. This has to be either with applicant permission or town sponsored or with the town approval. And obviously people need insurance.
Yeah.
But I don't want this to be a total free-for-all. Anybody can just pull in there and grab what they can grab. That's not what we're
Approval
going.
of the town and permission of the owner, right?
Yeah, the applicant's got to, he mentioned to me, anybody would let people come in as long as they're insured. And you're gonna need to get the right people to come in there and do that.
Yeah, and I would think it'd either be someone the applicant approves, or in lieu thereof, somebody that comes with some kind of town sponsorship, if you will, or the approval of the historians, just someone that's, we're not just opening the man's property up to anyone. in the public.
Should we let it up to him? Leave it up to him, to the applicant.
So in the email, it said, I see that Corey McConnell has an agreement alongside.
2 years old, I think, 2018.
Yeah, after speaking with Corey today through May 2020, I believe that he's still interested in pursuing the idea of relocating the barn to his property. So should it reflect it all?
Look, it's all late, typically 5 o'clock information. It's hard to know. I mean, can he really move those buildings, as Jake pointed out? It's not an inexpensive proposition.
I think there's salvageable material there, that's it.
Yeah, the Town of Montgomery historian said, I would also like to suggest if Corey McConnell decides against removal of the barns, we find another party that would save them. So it was almost Corey first, and then if not him. At least that was the email from the town historian.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with the it's his property.
It's his property, yeah.
I do think, though, we want to make sure if there's any way stuff can be saved, that it be saved versus just burned or bulldozed. But this man has a right to, not wait months and months for someone to figure out what they want to do.
I mean, someone from the town can approach him about it if they're really interested in salvaging some stuff. They can work something out. But I think if somebody really wants them, they see Steve and let them figure it out, work it out.
What time frame?
45 days okay with everybody? Yeah. 6 weeks from now?
That's reasonable.
Yeah, the summer's here, so.
Okay, so those are 4 conditions that I didn't type up this morning.
Okay.
There were 11 that I did, and I don't know if there are others to add to. don't forget, there's 3 different documents that go with the subdivision map. Common driveway agreement, which may include cross utilities.
Yes.
A lot of times we do that anyway. An MS4 stormwater agreement, and I believe a drainage easement in favor of the town because
Yeah.
he's going to obliterate the existing one.
Knock out the one to the south, and he's just gonna move it north to go around those storage
So
zones.
those 3 documents, obviously everything in the neg deck that Barney drew, very detailed, that goes without saying. The pump house will be closed per DOH regulations. We talked about the trailer trucks because it's up to the applicant to stagger deliveries. We can't control that. All the structures in accordance with the elevations, materials, and colors submitted for the record. You have some pretty good detail from the architect whose name escapes me. Landscaping maintained for the life of the use. All final consultants' comments. You had a minor one about a survey not being signed.
Yeah, the subdivision map.
So,
Yeah.
I put in because maybe it's just a good thing. All final map notes to be reviewed
Yeah.
prior to you signing,
Mhm.
and all final fees to be paid if owed. Now, I don't know if I missed anything.
I had
Number-
2 that I had questioned whether we need to make reference to the Army Corps, the need for the PCN, pre-construction notification, that you should show evidence of that, and then the other was the actual PC, speeds permit. Is that prior to a building permit, or?
get it before you start moving soil, 5 days before you start moving soil. It's really on them, the MS4 wants to know that you have a permit,
Right.
protect them, so.
The NOI? is that
Yeah.
what Barney-
Yeah, you submit the NOI, if you design everything in compliance with the manual, and you get the permit in 5 days.
Not that just, providing evidence of the NOI
Yeah.
before moving earth, and then the PCN really should,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim Farr's gonna wanna see it.
okay.
What's the PCN?
That's for the Army Corps disturbance?
Pre-construction
US Army Corps
notification.
Wetland disturbance? And that would be before a building permit also?
I would think so, he's the only one in jeopardy if he doesn't, or if he does more disturbance than that allows, or if they call you on it,
Right,
that's all,
right.
in general.
But it's not
45
necessary.
days.
It's not necessary for the filing and the signing of the map,
I don't think so, I think it would be that.
part of the building permit.
It would be your risk, you do it, you go,
Plus, you can't file for it too soon, right? Didn't I pick up along the way? You can't do it.
it does
notice
have a
of
life, I
intent.
think it's got a 2-year life or something
You
like that.
can't do it and then wait around and wait around. I think it's expected.
Yeah, we can.
I don't know what his timing is for this as far as construction. So maybe just prior to a building permit, issue evidence of it.
Maybe he wants to do it right away, get it before Larry. Larry's got storage in the building, and he's got storage in the building, so, I don't know, just look at what's coming in, that's all.
Hey, Rich, hours of ops, you mentioned 7, 8, and 11P. Does that restrict Sundays and holidays?
Now, 7 days a week.
7 days a week.
That's what they proposed. And, we talked about hours of operation and how it's not crystal clear. The boards have the right, especially if there's other similar operations that can run 24/7, no problem. Case law is kind of sketchy. I welcome 7 to 11 as opposed to 24/7.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? So I guess we have 3 votes to take.
Yes.
Entertain a motion to approve the 2-lot subdivision. Motion by Rich, seconded by John. Any discussion? All those in approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Approve the SEU permit and site plan for the self-storage lot on Lot 1 with the conditions that we that we've worked on. And there's a number of them now. We don't have to recite them all for this, right?
No, I think we ended up with 16.
16 notes. Okay, motion by Rich, seconded by
So yes,
Yes,
John.
sorry.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And approve the SEU permit site plan for the warehouse, again with the conditions. Motion by Rich, seconded by John. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Rich.
Thanks for the warning, Rich. You're throwing a pen at me, I think. No, when I didn't respond.
Okay, we have a number of minutes to get through here this evening. Do we have enough for the October 30th meeting minutes?
We could. Those were the ones that you could never.
So we can't approve those.
Never.
Right.
What I suggested to Sue is I passed on some very minor edits to stamp them, well, Sue actually has up top, unapproved, no form of those present, I added on 10/30/17. And we have as of May 26th, so we have to change that to, well, we're not going to vote on it anyway. So, because you can't.
Right.
But we still should get them filed, draft. It's not the end of the world. By the way, there is no requirement that you approve minutes. A lot of municipal boards are surprised at that.
Okay.
Go to all this work, have the meetings, take hours, then go through the minutes. But it's a good thing to approve, but here we'll never be able to because Bill and Steve were on the board and there was a vacancy.
And I was gone.
Pardon?
And I was gone, so.
And you were absent.
Wow.
So, they'll just get filed with Tara, draft unapproved, and that's the way they'll be.
Okay.
It's been a couple of years, so,
Good.
no, it's really.
Time to let it go.
Well, like you said, Rich, it's not the end of the world, so in a couple of years.
Okay, approval of the July 30th, 2018 planning board meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Ryan, seconded by Rose. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
One of the items I have a Jason property with 84 square.
Okay,
So I don't
So
know
Rich
whether I
was
should
recused.
vote on the whole thing or just, or is it?
You're on the August 27th now, Rich?
no, July 30th.
30th.
Well, it'll be the same thing for August 27th, right?
You could abstain, we still got plenty. Right?
Yeah,
Either abstain totally or abstain from the 84 part and
Well,
then join
that's
in the
what I
vote.
was asking.
Either way,
Abstain from the whole thing or just part of it.
either way you want to do it. I don't think it matters.
Then I'll abstain from the 84 square discussion.
okay. All right, motion carried. Approval of the August 27th, 2018 planning board meeting minutes. Any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? By Rose, seconded by Ryan. Rich will stay out of the discussion for 84 Square. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So Jay had to abstain on that one, because I wasn't here.
Oh, you weren't, okay, Jay wasn't here. Okay, approval of the November 13th, 2018 planning board meeting minutes. Any discussion?
I was absent.
Motion to approve those minutes by John, seconded by Jay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
May 11th, 2020 planning board meeting minutes. Any discussion? Motion to adopt May 11, 2020 planning board meeting minutes by Jay, seconded by Rose. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and approval of the May 26, 2020 planning board meeting minutes. Any discussion?
One correction,
Okay, Rich?
page 10. This second thing, down this curtain. We are, yes, we will own the right of way, should be there in one of those.
Where are you, Rich?
Page 10, this curtain is an inaudible. We will own the right of way, whereas inaudible is.
Okay, anything else?
Rich had a question on page 9, what Bonnie said.
Yeah, Bonnie, I don't know if you have page 9 or page 6. Well, Planner Franson, yes, the bioretention area and the discharge point, having the ordinances, the wetland plan is different than the
From
site.
the KC 11?
Yeah.
Here,
You get coordinates.
yes,
Orientation maybe?
Yeah.
Based on the orientation, the wetland plan is different than the site plan.
okay. That's
And then that page 17 too.
I'm on 17.
Yeah.
Oh.
Template for its resolution would be to put it in a customary template. I know I was talking about Blooming Grove having a local law.
I think you were asking me if Hyde Clark should have followed our template. Because Bracken Twiny's project followed
right.
our template.
Right,
Does that help?
right. I wouldn't have said Magooey.
I know, that's what, well, that's what. I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but.
Right, now I recall, that was, he had put it in a format that
Matrix?
was not customary. And so we had suggested that he get the template for the resolution so he could revise it to reflect what we normally utilize. What
Would
the
it-
town normally utilizes.
Would it be okay to say, Rich, I think we have a template for the resolution?
Yeah.
Just take
Or
Magooey out.
the town has a
Because
template.
Magooey is a local engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mix things up.
Okay.
I think that works, doesn't it?
Okay, now page 20. Mr. King.
Oh, this is important. We're on deadline and we're having our discussion with Mr. Canning. And Rich Marano asked about decibel levels and 84 background noise. Mr. Canning responds, that may be correct for the highway, but it's not cumulative. You don't take 6 decibels and throw it on top of it. First of all, the facility is remote from the highway, comma, it's right next to 84. That made no sense to me, so I added the word it's,
20.
it's,
The
could be.
receptor, he's talking about the receptor is remote, because the site is right next to you.
Right, we have, first of all, the facility is remote from the highway, comma, it's right next to 84. What's?
The receptor is gonna be residence or, you know, the receptor off of that site is in the distance.
Here. Just read that, because I don't want to put words in Mr. Canning's mouth, but the simple 3-letter word not would make all the difference in the world. But he said it, I don't,
He may have just said it backwards, and it was taken down correctly. You know, he may have just switched it, you know?
He was talking about the decibel readings on 84 or in the 70s and upper 80s. When Rich says the measured noise levels of the upper 70s and upper 80s for the highway, we'll add 6 decibels of backup beepers to that. So back here, Mr. Cannon's saying you don't take 6 decibels and throw it on top of it for first of all, the facility is remote from the highway. It's right next to 84. I think he's saying that next to 84, you're at the 70 and 80
Yeah.
decibels. You don't add 6 decibels on top of that. Because the facility's further away, you're adding 6 decibels to whatever the reading is there.
Would be there.
Question, is it okay the way it is then with that explanation?
Isn't that the first of all, the facility is not remote from the
Well-
highway? It's right next to 84, and secondly, there's a certain amount of
What-
attenuation between one sound and another. In other words, because 84's noise is so high,
Yeah, right.
it's going to attenuate, it's going to,
That's the easier way to fix it, but not there.
it's
Well,
not, yeah.
it's funny, you're proposing the not in the first part of the sentence, I was proposing the not in the second, and none of us was the speaker. So, and obviously this project is kind of important, I want our minutes to not have something that's just wrong.
Yeah, when you add the two noises together, then it's actually like a 3 dBA increase, it's not additive, it's logarithmic.
I think your not is the simplest
Yeah.
solution.
It's
To
not
get in the
remote
right
from the
meaning
highway.
there.
Because it makes sense, it's not remote from the highway, it's right next to 84.
Yeah, correct.
I thought as written, it didn't make any sense. First he's
You're
saying
right.
it's remote, then he's saying it's right
Yeah,
next to
you're
it.
right,
No, I get it.
you're right.
But I like your not better than my not.
Not between is and remote. Is not remote from the
Not
highway.
remote,
Right.
Can both things be true?
I thought you were trying to screw.
Tongue twister.
I gave you, oh yeah, I sent you my.
Okay.
That's correct.
Anything else on May 26th? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes for May 26th. Motion by Ryan, seconded by John. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
That was a great job. It's so helpful to have the minutes from the prior meeting.
Well, you can actually remember.
Well, and
Yeah, right.
McDonald and KCE on tonight, and it was so great to remember
Yeah.
what we did last month.
Well, we have a minute. I'd just like to thank Sue for all of her hard work. We're all caught up.
Are we?
All caught up.
Thank you, Sue.
Which is good.
that I don't want to take one.
If we could ever go out and have a drink ever again, we'll do that.
Last tonight, a motion to adjourn by Ryan, seconded by Rose. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Thank you, everybody.